Welcome to Grace United Church, and a history and a congregation that dates back to the early 1800s. Designed by architect William Thomas in 1853, this was originally the Presbyterian church. The Methodists were using a meeting house on Gate Street, but after the War of 1812, their numbers grew considerably, and by 1874 they needed a larger location, and this building was now empty. There was an auction, and the Methodist community was able to purchase this for $1,500. Back then, that was a staggering amount of money. And so 50 years after John Ryerson had preached their opening sermon in a meeting room, the Methodist congregation walked through these doors and into their new home. This is the narthex, or the antechamber of the church. And these are the faces of the ministers who have contributed to the history and growth of this congregation. From Maureen Ellison, designated lay minister since 2018, right back to 1854, and this gent, Reverend Claudius Byrne. Before Claudius Byrne, the church had been served by a series of what was called regional circuit riders, who travelled by horseback to wherever they were needed, ministering to people in their cabins, in their fields, in their courtrooms or meeting houses, from the city to the frontier. But back here in this gallery, there is one image missing. The Reverend Dr. J. MacArthur, the missing minister. There is not one single picture of him. Yet he served the church from 1913 to 1917. Most of that was during the First World War. They were turbulent times, and Reverend MacArthur would have been a busy man, ministering to his congregation. But apparently there was no time for photographs. Genealogists and researchers have looked for an image of Dr. MacArthur in records and files across the continent, with no success. Not a single photograph of Dr. MacArthur has turned up. He is indeed the missing minister. If he was inside the church today, he wouldn't recognize this unique chandelier hanging here in the sanctuary. This is considered a clean and crisp homage to the arts and crafts movement of the early 20th century. Nobody recognized these fabulous stained glass windows. They are artistic treasures and little known outside the church community. This one was donated in 1926 by Charles Briggs in honor of Louis Charles Peake, a member of the congregation from 1887 to 1923. And this one, dating back to 1929, honors the young men of the congregation who died in the First World War. Today, Minister Maureen Ellison preaches from this pulpit to a congregation that loves to sing and gather, even if it's all online. Beside her is the 90-year-old Francis Legg organ, a majestic musical instrument. It replaced a vintage pump organ over 100 years old, which Dr. MacArthur certainly would remember. It's still here, protected, and considered a church treasure. They might not be singing quite as they did before, but even with the restrictions of COVID-19, sermons and singing continue here at Grace United every Sunday. Reverend Maureen Ellison records all her services online. There's no lack of joy or commitment here. Grace United has continued to change and evolve over the past 100 years, just like our society. But there's no doubt that if Dr. MacArthur were to return today, he would barely recognize his church. And sorry to say, without a picture, no one would recognize Dr. MacArthur. So, if you do happen to find one, please do let the church know. Thank you.